you're
are
crinkling up your nose? Does something smell bad out there?
This morning it was like that. Boy, there was 3 skunks in and around here, and one of them was a flat one. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, it looks like you can smell something.
And skunk is not the best.
No. Well, it's so gorgeous here. I really resent having to sit in meetings all day when it's like 80 degrees outside and beautiful. Perfect campaign weather. But this is the last one. This is the 3rd meeting today.
Oh, good for you.
But yesterday I had a Comox Valley board and a debate last night at the Chamber of Commerce. So I've been going flat out lately.
How'd that go, Brenda?
The debate?
Yeah.
It wasn't really so much a debate as just a very controlled series of statements from people. And my opponent was always seemed to be getting the last to speak after me. But I mean, people asked me a lot of questions and I answered them. I mean, I know the answers. I just had to be there and hit them out of the park.
Yep. Good.
That's what I did. You have your debate tonight, don't you? No, you're not running. But Campbell River has some of their councillors or mayors.
There was enough debate at our SRD meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little rough. I found that a little bit.
Tonight, Brenda. Mayor's debate tonight.
Yeah.
Tonight, yeah.
And then the councillors start tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I didn't decide to go in till basically the last minute almost. And when I did go in, everything was like straight from the hip. It was not scripted for me, and I do better that way.
Yeah, sometimes you speak more directly and from the heart that way.
Yeah, and I think that, I think I did okay. I haven't seen it yet.
Well, Mr. Yates, I think we're all here. It's 3 o'clock.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. So I will call the meeting of the Strathcona Gardens Commission to order and ask for approval of the agenda, please.
Move adoption of the public agenda with the addition of 2 addenda items.
Second.
Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That is carried, and I will go back and just acknowledge that we are located on the traditional territory of the Lakwata people and appreciate our residents here. So, moving on to the next item, we have no petitions or delegations. Adoption of the minutes of July 13th, 2022.
Move adoption.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Or opposed? Motion's carried. And public considerations, Mr. Yates, nothing?
Correct.
Okay, Chair's report, I will just do a follow-up that I did have a conversation with Mr. Brasco. I gave him a call. It's been a while since I've had an opportunity to speak with him. Unfortunately, Mr. Brasco has not returned to Strathcona Gardens to participate in the aquatic center since the last incident, which he has moved on to other activities and is somewhat disappointed, but that's his choice. And he stated that he's still upset, made the reference that in his opinion, Strathcona Gardens was a toxic environment, and made reference that he had never had the opportunity to meet the new managers. So I am just sharing verbatim what his comments were. I have known Mr. Brasco when he was the manager of the Coast Discovery Inn, and he is a character, so I'll leave it at that, and just say I stood up for staff, and that staff were responding to the needs and requirements of all patrons at Strathcona Gardens, and following the proper course of duty. And we're always open and to discussion and being receptive. So we left it at that and wished each other well and went forward. So that is just my update and report for your information. Cal, I don't know if the wind in Cranbrook is really, Castlegar is really windy, but we're getting the sound of wind on a microphone or movement on a microphone.
Okay, I'll mute mine.
Okay, so just any questions on my verbal update, Chair's report? Motion to receive.
Move receipt.
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. Anyone opposed? Motion's carried. Staff reports, Recreate project detailed design completion update for receipt. The report from the CEO.
Move receipt.
Second.
Second.
And Mr. Leach, anything further?
Just that we have a update presentation from the folks at HCMA about our final design completion, some cost estimates that we've come up with at this time, and some construction timelines. So it seems quite appropriate that we've completed the design. We theoretically are ready to go, move forward. And it just happens to come at the conclusion of this term, and wanted to present it to the commission, and who knows, have some discussion and see what comes out of it.
Thank you. So just receipt of the CEO's comments.
Move receipt.
Second.
Anyone opposed? That is carried. And then moving over, Mr. Paul Fast from HCMA, welcome, and we look forward to your presentation. You're on.
Thank you very much, and it's good to be with all of you again, at least digitally. I understand that I think it's the clerk that's going to be running the actual presentation. Is that right? Perfect.
Correct.
So we are at the conclusion of the design work. What that means is that you have a tender-ready project, and so the documents that we've delivered to you now describe in full the design and are ready to be tendered out to the market should you choose to proceed at some point. And so you're ready to go. It's shovel-ready, so to speak. And so what I'd like to do today is just walk you really quickly through a few of the updated visuals that we've prepared that describe the design. What you're seeing here is a high-level snapshot. There's a huge amount of documentation and actual construction drawings that form the deliverable that we've provided to you along with our sub-consultants. So that's not what I'm showing you here today. This is more just an abstraction or a higher-level summary. Next, please. The vision statement, of course, centers around this notion that this building will be vital to the social fabric of Campbell River, and with a particular focus on wellness. And on the next slide, you'll see the program components that form that. Next, please. The program components here that really remain largely unchanged from the start of the project. So we've done a really good job of hanging on to all of the program pieces despite sort of some of the budget alignment conversations that have had to happen along the way. Next. Just as a reminder, you can see here a massing image of the overall project, the two existing arenas, obviously, the fitness center, and then the piece that we're adding on to here is really comprised of two components. One is the actual pool volume, or the aquatic center itself, and then we've got that lower black wrapper that kind of connects it or stitches it back to the main building. Next. The site plan, this is exciting because we've managed to solve a number of really challenging issues with your site. The circulation here has really been cleaned up by what we've been able to do here with realigning that main entryway. It's also going to provide accessible parking directly adjacent to the main entry of the building, which is really important for those folks with mobility challenges. We've been able to retain 4 of the large trees that are existing in your parking lot as sort of a nod to the past, and because they're beautiful trees. And then we've also got this great relationship that we've been able to establish between that social heart, which is just to the left of that little yellow arrow there, and that outdoor space. So there'll be a really generous outdoor component to your project, which will allow people to kind of live out the community life, both indoors and outdoors. And that north edge that currently is so challenging. Sorry, just a couple slides back there. Yep. Here we've managed to soften that edge considerably so that it's no longer this really high retaining wall, but there's going to be a really soft sort of a landscape of local planting and then the building embedded in it. Next slide. The floor plan is largely unchanged from what you would have seen in our update a few months ago. And so you've got the pool space, or what we call the natatorium, on the left, the change room block, and then the fitness, and then the social heart that sort of stitches. The social heart is the glue. It's the thing that kind of stitches all of your different building components together, gets people from point A to point B, but also gives them a chance to sit down on a bench, grab a cup of coffee, relax, chat to a neighbor. Next. This is a cross section that just shows you if you were to travel from the arena through the existing building into the new building, this is the kind of cross section that you would be taking. And so just gives you a sense of scale between the pool on the left, that social heart, and then your existing building. Next. The circulation, again, we feel that we've managed to put a design in place here which actually solves and clarifies a lot of the existing circulation challenges that you have in the building. And so you come in the main door and you'll be able to see right down that existing circulation spine. Your existing lobby space connects directly to the new lobby space. And so it becomes essentially one extended lobby space in that regard. And so from a staffing standpoint, from an operational standpoint, it'll help provide good sight lines and oversight over that main space. And then we're making sure we have good sight lines through the building as well. So we're never dead ending a corridor. You always have a chance to kind of see outside through the main corridors. Next. Those visual connections, as I just mentioned, we've made the change rooms, the universal change rooms in particular, totally porous, so that from an oversight and a safety standpoint, these will be much enhanced over sort of the typical older style of change room. And then just connecting programs wherever we can visually with the main space. So if you're in a hallway traveling from point A to point B, you'll be able to see activity in the fitness room, in the pool, in the multipurpose rooms, and it's all connected. So that's good from a safety standpoint. It's also just great from a getting to see what other people are doing and connecting to the life of the facility. Next. The pool features, we've got, of course, the whole host of them here. So the leisure pool will have a great lazy river and sort of current channel, a lot of spray features, things from bubblers to jets to water cannons and things like that. And then it'll have, of course, we've got the water slide in the bottom corner, tots area, and zero entry. So zero entry being a ramp essentially into the pool. On the lap pool on the left, we've got the climbing wall and the diving board, and then we've got the hot pool and the wellness pool in the north. Next. That hot pool and the therapy pool are both fully accessible, meaning they both have a ramp into them. That's really important given the program that's happening there. And they also have what we call a transfer ledge. So it's a raised pool edge, which makes it easier for people who have mobility challenges to get in and out of the pool, including people who don't need a wheelchair. It's just easier for people rather than dropping all the way down to the pool deck level. So this project has been designed and will be certified Rick Hansen under the Rick Hansen system. So it's incorporating a much higher level of accessibility and inclusive design than if we were just to design to building code. And we've done that largely within the existing budget. Next. From a sustainability standpoint, there's a number of great things happening here, including just natural daylighting and ventilation. which is beneficial just from a general building experience standpoint. But we're using sustainable materials wherever we can, including local materials and hopefully locally sourced lumber to some degree. We've got prefabricated truss elements, so those big triangular trusses that span across the pool, those are going to be prefabricated and be much more efficient that way. And the building will be what we call zero carbon ready, meaning that the envelope of the building, the wall assemblies, the insulation, the cladding, they're being designed to a much higher performance target. And so when you, in the future, if you go down the road of adapting the rest of the facility and the mechanical systems, you could be at a zero carbon building based on what we've been able to do within the current design here. Next. This is from a phasing standpoint, it's always, these buildings are always tricky, but I think you've got a building here and a design here that will actually allow full-scale operations as much as possible. And so the first phase of construction that will be happening while your existing pool is still running is the entire new pool and the chain and about 80% of the change rooms. And so this is what you'll have. The main entry will still be functioning. You may, you're going to be bringing new people in from the north side of the building instead, just because of the laydown that's needed on the south side. But your existing pools will be operational during this period, and there's a lot of hoops to jump through to get that to happen. But this design does address that. Next. Phase 2 is when you open up the new pool, you're going to have a temporary reception for about a year while you renovate the old pool into the fitness center and get your new reception up and running. And so the design has been put in place to minimize the disruption or the re that has to happen to get that temporary reception to work. And so that's roughly what this will look like here. And then next, please. Phase 3 essentially is just some of the smaller scale touch-ups that happen to change the temporary reception over to the permanent. So that'll be a fairly small, unobtrusive phase. So the biggest phase will be phase 1, and then phase 2 will be the next largest. Phase 3 is really just a bit of cleanup. Next. The images here, the rendering, this is if you're coming up Dogwood Street heading south. And you can see here that really large iconic timber roof will really be visible from all elements. And this is that corner currently that has those big lock block retaining walls in it. And so we're getting a much gentler, softer approach from an urban design standpoint here than you had previously. Next. If you were on Dogwood heading north, this is the aspect you would see. So a lot more porosity into the pool, and of course that roof, you'll be seeing that from an arrival standpoint as well. And you can see here the bosque of trees that we've got that allow you to kind of transition along those sidewalks, walk through the trees, and get into the main door of the building there. And you should be able to see the life of the building when you're approaching it from the pool deck level. Next. The roof form development has always been really central to this project, and it's really been derived from what we hope is an experience that simulates what it's like to be outside under the tree canopies. And so this initial image here, and you can go to the next slide, please, just starts to mimic what that experience is that we're trying to really bring the idea of the outdoors into the pool experience itself. Next. And that's the final pool there. So you can see the lap pool on the far side with some spectator seating for swim events, the climbing wall, obviously, some of the pool features here, and all of that underneath the big roof. Next. Over on the wellness side, this is a deliberately smaller scaled space. So the ceiling is lower. It's a little bit more intimate. It'll be acoustically quieter in here. And that's to do with just the nature of therapy and rehabilitation that might be happening in that tank to the left. And then that really large hot pool. Hot pools are really great. They're the social life of these buildings. And so I think your citizens are really going to enjoy the large size of that pool in particular. Next. The reception area, if you come in, the front door is just on your left here, and it's you can see those sight lines that are generated, so see directly into the pool from the main reception area, and then if you were to turn around, you'd be able to see right back into the the old part of the facility. Next. The materials that we've developed are really, again, inspired by your place, the place of Campbell River and the surrounding region. It's important, like we've tied these back directly to different things that you find in nature. And so you'll see it's a very calm palette. I'm not going to say it's spa-like, but it certainly from a wellness standpoint, we were trying to go with something that was quieter and allowed a little bit more of a meditative sort of experience through that pool space. Next. So you can see here on the right-hand side, those are the tiles that we're going to be using in the pool space itself. So they vary from a small scale mosaic tile on the floor, which is the gray and the white, to some of the accent walls, which will have that mottled sort of green that mimics the forest texture. And then accents in those wood, the ceiling panels will have that lined wood with the black. And then on the next slide, please. You can see here how we've started to apply a very simple palette of materials to the outside. And so the majority of the building will be done in a metal panel. This is a custom metal panel that's a fairly cost-effective one, but we've been able to play with the variation in the panel, in the patterning of the panels to give you some variation. And you'll see in the animation, we're going to show you the kind of play of light across that facade, I think will be quite nice. And then we're also applying what we call a frit, which is basically banding that allows for us to make sure there's not too much sunlight getting into the building and overheating the patrons when they're in the pool or the space. Next. Again, yeah, here. So this is the view into the pool, and you can see sort of that striated nature of the fritting pattern on the glass, and that allows for a slight degree of privacy while still allowing light and views through that glass. Next. This is the main entry here. If you're approaching from the plaza. Next. And then the internal colors, things that we're painting or applying color to, we've opted to go with a very sort of reduced and simple palette. Again, we don't want to overwhelm. There's lots of, in a pool, people wear really bright colored bathing suits and they bring the color into the pool. So we're going with a simple palette to allow for ease of wayfinding. We don't want to overwhelm people. And so that strikes a number of really good objectives. Next. So we've reduced it essentially to the colors you're seeing on the left here. Next. And then we've also applied that comprehensively through the wayfinding and signage. And so it's the design hasn't just been stopped when we get to the signage, but it's been thought of through to every scale. So we've custom designed some pictograms to reflect the activities and the nature of things that are happening in your building, and making it really easy for people to find their way through the building. And that goes for from people with accessibility concerns as well. So there will be Braille applied to almost all of the signs as well. And we're making sure we have the right kind of contrast to allow people with visual impairments to find their way through the building. Next. So just some examples of some of the more detailed signage, including the digital sign, the new digital sign that will be located outside of the front building. Next. Just from the interior standpoint, it's where we find it's better to use simple icons as opposed to a whole pile of words. So the emphasis really in the signage is about the function and the use, and helping people understand that rather than making them read a whole bunch of text. Next. And then using simple colors, non-traditional colors to designate the gendered change rooms. So we've got the sort of buttery yellow and that orange on the left to denote male and female change rooms. Next. And then just some other examples of how this would be applied. So, using materials to denote where things go. That green space in the middle is the shower niche that you can come out and use after you use the sauna or the steam on your left. Next. And from this is the main reception desk. So very simple and muted. There's the emphasis there really is on the people behind the desk and the warm smiling faces that you see when you walk in the front door. Next. So that's where we are. As I mentioned, we are tender ready. And so you have all of the drawings and specifications that you need in order to procure the services of the subtrades for the project. and that's what we've been contracted to do. I do believe we have one really short video that we'd like to play for you, which is a little bit of a walkthrough of the spaces itself.
Am I missing something?
It's coming.
Okay.
Here we go. Yeah, if we could maybe just can we roll that back to the start? Okay, there we go. Okay, so here, this is just the exterior. You can see the way that cladding changes over time as the light plays over top of it. And the resolution here is a little bit coarse. So maybe what we can do is provide this video to you as a separate link afterwards so that you can get a better sense of that space. But this is the main natatorium space here. And you can see really the emphasis here is on the experience of the water, access to the views outside, and there'd be a really great kind of environment in this space. Looking back towards the north side and the wellness zone there on the far side, when you're coming from the old building into the new building, this is the path that you would be taking. And that wood ceiling really is a wayfinding tool to bring you from one space to the next as you go from the old into the new. And then from the outside, if you're traveling to the front door from Dogwood Street or from your car, this is the kind of route that you'd be taking. And that front entry is then just right in front of you here. And so that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Paul. Certainly appreciate all the work that you've done and with your team at HCMA. And questions from the commission. Cal.
Thank you, Paul, for your presentation. And I like the way you kept it to what you did. We don't need to be involved in all the blueprints and all that paperwork. It just will muddy the waters, I'm sure. My question is, do you have a rough number? And I may have asked this previously. So Joe Public may wonder, why is this costing $50 million, just as a rough number? But Joe Public wanted the pool to remain open as much as possible. If the pool was to have been shut down for 2 years and we did the construction, roughly what would that number be? Could you take 5 million off that figure? Could you take 20 million off that figure? Just a rough. I'm not looking for anything, any exact number.
Yeah, Cal, that's a good question, and I'm going to probably let Miriam, the project manager, speak to this more directly. My sense is, though, if we assume that the design that you would end up with in both cases is the same one, and that you're just gaining efficiencies by not phasing the project, then I think you'd be looking at savings that are probably less than 5 million. Possibly 2 to 5, somewhere in that range. There would be some savings, but they wouldn't be anywhere on the scale of sort of 20 million or anything of that order.
Okay, thank you.
Correct, and I can jump in. Hello, I'm Miriam Petrosian. I'm with Make Projects. Yes, we have looked at what would it take to keep the pool operational versus to close the pool, and we would be mainly gaining efficiencies in the schedule and efficiencies in the construction process. So yes, it would be under the 5 million mark, but between, as Paul mentioned, between 1 and 2.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kerr.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Paul, for the presentation and the job. I've been in the community about 50 years, so I watched the new build initially and the rebuild, and I've watched the the process. I mean, the building itself, the work that you've done to connect the whole thing together, the lounge area, the open corridors and sight lines, I think just from the little video is really going to enhance the whole project. And also the wood first kind of elements, I think, which were important. My background is landscaping, and it's always been the neglected part of that project right from the beginning. There never was much money spent on it. The north face elevations look like the building is dropped down, and we're not going to have those steep slopes, which have always been a challenge maintenance wise, and well, nothing ever got done in decades on that. So hopefully all that landscaping is in the budget. You were talking about saving trees. I wasn't sure which particular trees you were saying. Were they the sweet gum, the liquid amber you were saving on the driveway, or some other trees on site?
Through the chair, Commissioner Kerr, you're testing my knowledge here. I don't know the species, but what I can tell you is they're the 4 trees that are located in the roundabout on the site plan. So that little drive around, the 4 trees that are in the middle of it, and we're happy to confirm what species those are.
Okay, the other trees on the site, on the bright red ones going up towards the building won't be saved, or they're going to be in the parking area, or is that too specific a question?
No, I believe those have to go to make way for the construction works.
Anyway, good project. I like the new signage. Yeah, I had no problems with the concept and the cleanness of the whole project. It looked very good.
Thank you. Commissioner Evans?
Thank you, and thank you, Paul. Great presentation. I'm not sure if this question has been asked before, and it's with regards to what you refer to as the social heart of the project. Is there an opportunity that if the space would allow itself to be programmed for, I'm not talking about daycare, but just children's activities or some kind of a reading event or something that would allow the community to interface in a way with that space? Was that ever envisioned in the design, or is that something that we would be able to look at ourselves as we move forward? Just trying to get a sense of the scale of that space, how adaptable it is to community programming. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think we've kept it as open and flexible as possible to support the different programming options that might happen there. So the furniture there, none of that is fixed. And you could move it out of the way and you could program it for a variety of things. Now, it's not a huge space. So like a large scale community gathering likely wouldn't work in the lobby space, but smaller scale activities of various natures should be accommodated. And the other thing I would say is there's a multi-purpose room. There's actually 2 multi-purpose rooms that interface directly with the lobby that could be used for programming some of those types of activities as well, where they're benefiting from the adjacency to the social heart, but they're slightly removed and offer a little bit more space and shelter.
Thank you, and I know it wasn't part of your presentation today, but just speaking to art installation and sort of the creative elements that would be added on, do you see designated locations throughout the facility where those would take place? And is that an overlay, or how are you seeing that being represented in the construction project or the tender? Is it any part of the tender bid to designate specific areas for art installation? Thanks.
So yeah, through your chair. So the Miriam can speak to the way in which it's been captured in the budget, but we have made specific efforts to capture locations for both some of the existing artwork you have in the facility. I know you have a carved canoe that's important, so we have space for that that's been allocated. And then we also have space for new art that's been, and there's been some discussions, I know, with your local First Nations around providing some artwork pieces. So there's a location that's been identified both inside the building and a location in the plaza for a carving of some sort. So both of those have been anticipated and will be ready and waiting when the artwork is procured.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Commissioner Lee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Paul, you mentioned 50 million for this project, and I know that our commission endorsed it and at our board $28 million to be spent within our budgets and whatnot. So is there any chance that we could just have the new pool and the front end and keep the other pools? Because there seems to be a lot of demand for swimming and not enough room. And that new pool's too small for all the demand that we have, in my opinion. So, you know, people are writing to us just today on our agenda that there's not enough room for swimming lessons. It's way oversubscribed. They can't get their kids in there for swimming. You know, to me, it's less important the aesthetics of it. Like, this seems to be an aesthetically pleasing design, but I would like to see functionality as far as what the community needs, how much space, how much swimming space they need. So I don't know where we go with this. If it's going to be 50 million, it's going to have to go to referendum.
So Commissioner Lee, appreciating your comments, but we have extensively gone through this over the last couple of years with the design to get to where we are today, taking all of the comments that you have made, even that incorporate your comments today, into consideration. Mr. Leach, you had some more to add?
I just wanted to make a comment when Director Lee was talking about more swimming spaces. Just, I know we're going way back, but a reminder, one of the impetus of doing this project was we have some geotechnical subsurface issues with the existing pool. So our longevity of that is really in question, but keeping that pool open as is in the long term is not an option, because you know, what we've been told by the geotechnical engineers is, you know, we don't know if it's a week or 10 years, but there's some subsurface issues underneath that pool, and it's a liability to us. So keeping that pool is not an option.
Anything further, Commissioner Lee?
So not even if we lined it, like, not even if we had a liner put in that pool?
No, it's the geotechnical conditions underneath the pool that we have stability issues, and we need to, the easiest, cheapest way was to eliminate the pool. So early on in the process, that's the conclusion we came to, along with the community's desire to have a pool actively open the whole time. So the combination of those two items is that pool has a limited life and a current liability as we speak.
Paul, you have something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind the Commission that there was also a needs assessment that was performed at the start of this process, which deliberately looked at capacity and water area required to support long-term growth projections for the City of Campbell River and the surrounding regions. So what you're seeing today is a significant expansion of the water area itself, and it's been designed in a way to be highly versatile from a programming standpoint. So many of the features in the pool are doing double duty from a programming standpoint. So it certainly, what you're seeing in the design today meets the intention that was laid out in the needs assessment that was performed several years ago.
Commissioner Lee, anything further?
Not at the moment, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Paul, I just want to, this has been a long journey from when we did the tour around to the Lower Mainland to all the facilities. And I just want to say how much of a pleasure it has been to work with you and your team at HCMA on this journey to get to where we're at. Now we just need either a premier or a prime minister to write a nice check for us, and we're good to go. But can't say enough about how great it's been to not only see the evolution and growth within the Strathcona Regional District staff and Strathcona Garden staff working in combination with HCMA. It's been a really rewarding and exciting journey. So for that, I want to thank you. I agree with the comments that have been made that what you've managed to come up with is just a really nice flow to the facility that sort of integrates all the aspects from the aquatics to the ice arenas to the fitness areas, just making a nice flow, and also ties into, at some point in time, there is going to need to be the same attention given to either the Brindamore Arena or if not there, probably a standalone somewhere else. And I think what you have presented allows that option to be considered at the future. And I think that's really progressive. Commissioner Kerr, with his background, touched on the landscaping and the trees. When I see the pictures of the trees, not to be at the same level of competence as Commissioner Kerr, but trees that have a lot of leaves that come down in the fall create for a lot of operational cost and expense. So is that a consideration when you're picking the species to be incorporated into the landscape design?
Yes, Commissioner Adams, certainly it was. And we had quite a bit of consultation between our landscape consultant and your operations staff. Lots of back and forthing on both the plantings and the trees. And so we've taken their considerations into account.
Thank you. My last comment or question is a little bit of a loaded one because you have been such a good firm to work with. I see later on our agenda is receipt of a building links for September 14, 2023, where you have been awarded the contract for a comprehensive aquatic center feasibility study for the Alberti Clayoquot. And it has been a number of years since we were at that stage, but also appreciating that we are in competition for other levels of government funding. Take your time on that one. It wouldn't, and but also if we're looking at it from where we were to where we are, they're about 5 years behind us, 4 to 5 years behind us. Would that be a fairly close estimate?
Yeah, we know how these processes go, and you're obviously familiar with it, having lived it yourself. So they are, from what I understand, at the early stages of a feasibility study, and there's much design work and approvals process and public engagement that's necessary before they would be in the same position that you are.
And certainly no competition. You know, they call themselves the salmon capital, as do we. They've got the jump as to the larger arena with a Junior A franchise, but just take your time. We're fine with that. So I know Cal is right behind me on that as well. So on behalf of the Strathcona Regional District and the Strathcona Gardens commissioners that have been on this for quite some time, we are very appreciative for the collaboration and partnership that we have, and let's get this one across the finish line. Thank you. Commissioner Lee, did you have another comment?
I just had one more question of Paul while he's here. So, or Miriam, is the new pool, the main pool, is it regulation competition size pool for our swim teams to have meets and things? It looks smaller in the drawings than our existing big pool, lap pool. Is it as big?
Through the chair, Commissioner Lee, yes, it's a 25-meter tank. It's larger than your current tank, so it's an 8-lane, 25-meter pool.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, Commissioner Lee. So Paul, thank you. And we'll stay in touch. We'll keep working.
Yes, and thank you all so much for the opportunity to work with your team, both your staff and with yourself, the elected officials. We've very much enjoyed the process and appreciate your trust and confidence in our team. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Yates, would a motion to receive be in order?
Move receipt.
Second?
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Mr. Yates, what do we have next?
Mr. Chairman, if there's no more discussion on this item, then we do have a couple of addendum items. But I would leave it to the CAO if he feels that everything to do with Recreate has been dealt with to his satisfaction.
From our perspective, it has. Not sure. My apologies. From our perspective, we've completed the design on it. We've got a cost estimate here. Happy to, I'm not sure about timing with the election coming up, but happy at any time to engage conversation about next steps, because at this point we're stalled. We continue to collect requisition and put it away in the bank that has been earmarked for this project. We have, plus or minus, I think about $7 million in the bank. We have a current application in for, I think it maxed out at about $10 million for a grant. And again, requisition that allows us to borrow, with interest rates changing, probably around the $25 million mark, I would say right now. So, adding up all those three, I think we're current status, without putting Mike on the spot, I would stick my neck out and say we're probably around 42 million. I would say we're in the neighborhood right now, and as you can see with inflation and everything that's going on with the world here, the numbers keep getting inflated. We're at I think 7.2 annual inflation this year, and last year was close to 4, and who knows what next year is. So just that the inflationary cost keeps adding up, and I guess just waiting for more direction on what next steps are. So we bought and paid for the design. We have it, as you heard, it's tender ready. So that's all taken care of. We have no debt as we speak today, and we're shovel ready. We're in great position for a grant. We continue to advocate. Hopefully there's more programs coming out there that we can attack. But the one thing we have seen over the last several years is costs every year just keep going up and up and up, right? And that's the challenge that we have is, do we pull the trigger or do we continue to leverage on a grant? And I'm not sure the answer to that.
Thank you, Mr. Leach. Certainly is a challenge, and I would say that for any current grant applications that are outstanding or any future ones, that is a heavy component of the application to make it known how long we have been putting in for partnership grant opportunities and what the impact of the inflationary costs has had on the overall cost of this project. I think that would be worth putting in. So with that, nothing further on that portion, so we will go to where are we at now, Mr. Yates?
That would be under section O, addendum items.
Addendum items.
And we have 2.
Okay, so the addendum items, we have Strathcona Garden swimming lessons for receipt.
Move receipt of Tamara Baker's letter regarding swimming lessons.
Second.
Discussion? Commissioner Lee?
I would simply be moving that staff investigate this matter and report back to us on the availability of swimming lessons and how we can alleviate the pressure on the pool and make sure all the kids that want to be in swimming lessons can be.
So if I can,
And
if I can, I'll just add something that's not going to be really new to anybody here, as we are facing in all aspects of life. Supply chain, worker shortage, and our biggest handicap, and it's not ours, it's Vancouver, Lower Mainland, all over the island, recreation facilities are really suffering from staffing issues and lifeguards being the main one. That, in the day, that used to be a real coveted position, and it would be a pool that we had excess numbers to draw from, and now we're having to take different tactics about providing training and paying for lifeguard training to attract folks and having them stay. So the real challenge is the lifeguards right now, and that's affecting programs and swimming lessons as it gets down to, and we are not unique in that situation. Everyone's having the same issue, and facilities are limiting hours just solely as a result of the lack of lifeguards.
Thank you. Robin?
Thank you through the CAO, to the chair and the commissioners. I would just like to confirm that Ms. Baker was able to have. I can just confirm that Ms. Baker was able to register for lessons in October. She didn't make the September cut, but she is in our system for October swimming lessons. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that answer your queries, Commissioner Lee?
Well, I'm just wondering if we can't recruit our own lifeguards, are there agencies that we could draw upon, like the Canadian Red Cross or other agencies involved in teaching how to swim?
Yeah.
Is there any other place we can look to have people training kids in how to swim?
Yeah, and Commissioner Lee, certainly appreciate the comment. I know that staff are looking at all options. It doesn't matter whether it's teachers or police officers or firemen or anything. Everyone is experiencing labor challenges and shortages, and I'm confident that Mr. Leach and his team are doing everything they can to get the personnel, but it is a very competitive environment.
I'm just thinking about contracting.
I think we are looking at all options, including contracting, and the only one that is not on the table due to our collective agreements is volunteer. Robin?
I'd just like to add that the Red Cross has stepped out of swimming. So the Life Saving Society is taking that over. They're moving on. Red Cross is moving on to other things. And I can also confirm that we work with the BCRPA and the RFA-BC collectively across BC with all of the other facilities having these challenges, and we're working together for collectively coming up with solutions to these problems.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Just one more little thing, if I could, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, please.
For quite a few years, Area D has been supporting the junior lifeguard club at the pool and training lifeguards, like helping train people to get their bronze cross and be able to rescue people and whatnot. Surely there's people at North Island College that would like extra income teaching people how to swim part-time. There must be people out there that have the training. We just have to find them. Because Area D has supported Junior Lifeguard Club for a long time. So there might be people like students that want to work part-time training people how to swim.
Yeah, I know it's hard to imagine, but as Commissioner Adams has outlined, it's in all aspects of every profession out there. But trust us, there isn't. I mean, it's a real challenge, and we're trying to attract people and get them interested in that. But it's a much more competitive market now, right? Where young people have many more options, and it is difficult to attract them. So I know it's hard to imagine because it hasn't been like this for decades, but it's very, very difficult.
Okay, thank you. Hearing nothing further, a motion to receive, please.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion's carried. And a motion to receive the Building Links construction report.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, this is just for information, as I alluded to with the discussion with HCMA as to what Port Alberni, Clayoquot Regional District are up to. Just keeping us aware as to what our potential competition is for that big golden pot of money. So motion to receive.
Move receipt.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. And seeing nothing further, we do not have any closed items. I think that's it for today.
Move termination.
I have one question
Okay.
of the chair. Will we see Chair Adams in the chair next month?
You will see myself in the chair for the next meeting.
Thank you.
I wouldn't say next month.
Correct.
October 12th? Yeah. All right, so with that, we have a motion. Was it been moved and seconded to adjourn?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, staff, and thank you, commission members, and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
And
everyone.
those running for political office, good luck.
Thank you.